My name's Ben, I'm an addict.
Hi, Ben.
And yeah, it's good to be in this meeting. It's always an honour and a privilege to be given the opportunity to do service in Narcotics Anonymous and you know, to carry a message which basically is the same message that was carried to me when I came around here, you know, and that is that there's a way out. And you know, I'll just tell you my story basically. You know, I believe that there was definitely something going on in me before I picked up that first drug. You know, there was something going on from a young age. You know, I was very restless as a child, and you know, always looking for something outside of myself to make me feel better. You know, I was never happy just being where I was, doing what I was doing. You know, I was fantasized a lot about, you know, just being somewhere else. You know, I was just never happy where I was. You know, that was my story, and you know, by the time I reached sort of the start of my teen years, you know, I was just quite sort of bored with life, really. You know, it didn't seem to me that it was cracked up to be what everyone else thought it was. You know, and I found drugs. You know, and I felt better. You know, that's my experience completely. You know, when I found drugs, I felt better. All of a sudden, you know, I was quite happy. I was quite comfortable in my own skin. You know, I was happy, you know, being where I was at any given time, provided I had enough of any given substance in my body. You know, and you know, I liked taking drugs, and I used them. I just kept using, basically. You know, it didn't take long before, you know, I was using on a daily basis. You know, other people were coming home and doing their homework, and I was coming home and using, you know, because that's what I like doing, basically. And, you know, I didn't really see, you know, there was consequences to my using, but I didn't really see them as consequences. You know, my education was going downhill quite rapidly. You know, relationships with my family was going downhill, but, you know, that was a small price to pay, really. I'd found a solution that really worked in my life, and you know, I did what I wanted, basically. You know, that's what I've always done. I do what I want, and it gets me in trouble, basically. Um, and you know, it got to the point where I started seeing my using as a problem because life had become painful again. You know, all those feelings of anxiety and fear and restlessness that drugs had, you know, they just masked over perfectly. Those feelings were creeping back through, you know, and it was from that point on things just started getting worse for me, basically. And you know, I just kept using because that's what I do. Left to my own devices, I just use. You know, I'd lost the power of choice by that point. You know, I'd make a decision not to use, and I'd just use. You know, I didn't have a defense against this stuff. You know, and I've learnt a lot coming to this fellowship. You know, I came here quite frightened, quite scared, confused. You know, and I didn't really know anything that was worth knowing. You know, everything that I knew about life got me to the place where I was when I arrived here. You know, and that was that I was broken. You know, I kept trying to get clean. You know, I'd get a bit of clean time under my belt. You know, and things would get better in some respects. I'd have a bit of money in my pocket. You know, I'd start washing my clothes again. You know, I'd do the washing up. I'd do those things that normal people did. You know, I'd pay my rent on time, and you know, this was all good stuff. But you know, my experience really is that without a program in my life, when I stop using drugs, things get worse. You know, they don't get better like they do for people who aren't addicts. You know, you take drugs away from me, and it's not a pretty sight. You know, and you know, I've come here and I've learnt about this illness. You know, I've learnt about that obsession of the mind. You know, and I've learnt that obsession. You know, it's more powerful than my desire not to use. You know, I had a strong desire not to use quite some time before I come to this fellowship, you know, and this obsession of the mind was always more powerful, you know, and then that sets off the this physical compulsion. You know, I'd get a bit of clean time, and I'd pick up and I'd think, fucking hell, what have I done? I've done it again. Right, tomorrow I'm not going to use, and you know, it didn't happen like that, you know. And you know, I identify with this spiritual void that people talk about. You know, this feeling of sort of emptiness, fear. You know, I identify with all that stuff. And you know, I was just thinking the other day actually about the obsession of the mind, and there's something you know, that I did which really makes that quite clear to me. I went away to another country for a month. I went away to Singapore, and I thought, sweet, you know, I'll get a bit of clean time under my belt. And you know, my experience is that consequences aren't going to stop me from using, but when I'm going to get executed for possessing drugs, it's sort of it was enough for me, you know. You know, I got by. So you know, I thought fantastic, and I'm sleeping again, and I've been there a couple of weeks, and I think this is great. You know, when I get back to London, I won't have used for a month, and you know, I'll be sweet. You know, that's what I believe, because I didn't know about this illness. You know, and my thinking just gradually changed. You know, I know that this disease centres in my thinking, and my thinking's the problem. You know, and I went from thinking, you know, great, this is all good. You know, I'm just not going to use anymore, you know, and gradually, through my own thinking, you know, what I do is I paint such a bleak picture of the world I'm in, you know. I'm looking at what I haven't got and what I want, you know. I can't see what I've got, and you know, I'm thinking, oh, you know, I was going fucking mad, basically, and you know, I'm painting this bleak picture, and all of a sudden I'm dreaming about using, you know, and it's looking like a fucking great idea, and I can't see the consequences, you know, which happen every time, you know, and the last few nights there I'm dreaming about using, you know, and I get to the airport, go to duty free, buy a bottle of whiskey, get back, and I score, and I'm off and running again, you know, and a couple of weeks later I've backed myself into a corner again, which is what I do, left to my own devices, you know, and I can't see a way out again, you know, and you know, that was the story of the latter part of my using. Basically, I constantly backed myself into a corner, you know, and you know, I got to the point where I was just broken, you know. I'd run out of any good ideas, you know. I knew that things were going to get worse. So I had this moment of clarity that, you know, this myth, this illusion that I chased, that, you know, if the right girl comes along or I get a new job, I'll just stop using. You know, if I get something good enough in my life, I'll just stop using. You know, and I can see now, you know, looking back, I had lots of good stuff come into my life, and I lost it. You know, because you know, I'm a nightmare basically. You know, and I'm, you know, I'm in self-destruct mode. You know, that's how I live life. And I came to this fellowship, you know, through a 12-step treatment centre, and you know, I'm grateful for that facility. You know, they took care of me. You know, they looked after me, they fed me, and you know, and I sort of came back into the real world again. And you know, when I went into that treatment centre, I had a desire not to use and an obsession that was stronger than that desire. You know, and I came out of that treatment centre with exactly the same thing. You know, but you know, I came to meetings. 2 suggestions they gave me was go to meetings and get a sponsor. You know, and so I went out into the fellowship, and I was looking for a sponsor, you know, because as I said, I didn't have any ideas left. So for the first time in my life, I did what I was told, and it's probably the best thing I ever did, really. And you know, as I said, I'm sitting in meetings, and I'm scared. I can't look people in the eye. You know, I'm so self-obsessed, and my you know, my head's going at 100 miles an hour, and basically I knew I was on borrowed time. You know, this is a powerful fellowship that I'm part of, and it's the fellowship that's what held me in early days. You know, that's what enabled me to get through, you know, one day at a time without using. But it was a struggle. You know, I knew that I needed to take action. I knew that I was on borrowed time, basically, and you know, I found a man and asked him to sponsor me. You know, someone who knew about this disease. You know, and I heard him share. And you know, he was sharing that he'd been where I was, and you know, he was a million miles away from where I was. You know, he'd been shown the way out by another addict. You know, that's what we do here. And he had a new way of life, you know, and I wanted what he had. And you know, I asked him for sponsorship, and he said, "Are you willing to go to any lengths?" And I said yes. You know, I didn't know what that meant, and I didn't really care, really. You know, I just wanted what he had, you know, and you know, I cracked on with this work. You know, I came here with step one. You know, I firmly believe that. I didn't know it. All I knew was that I was beaten, basically. But you know, I had to understand this stuff, and you know, it really wasn't hard for me to admit that I was powerless over my addiction, that my life was unmanageable. You know, left to my own devices, I couldn't stop using. You know, I was powerless over that obsession of the mind and everything that goes with it. And you know, my life was unmanageable. I could not manage my own life. You know, and to this day I still can't. Left to my own devices, it won't take me long before I just fuck everything up again. You know, I'm sure of that. That's why I come here. And you know, it's what got me into trouble is that I just constantly made bad decisions. You know, run on self-will with my thinking. You know, I get myself into trouble time and time again through the decisions I make. You know, and to an outsider, some of them are obviously bad decisions to make. You know, I'm run out of money. I've got no drugs. I'll sort of go down to this fella I know. I'll tick a big bit of gear off him, and you know, my intention is that I'm going to sell it all and have a bit to use myself, and I'll be there the next week with all the money in my hand. And you know, I'm there next week, and I've got no drugs, and I've got no money, and I've got an angry fella on the phone who wants to know where I am. You know, but there's other decisions which, you know, seem like quite good decisions. You know, I'll say to myself, well, I'm going to go to university, and you know, I'm going to sort myself out. And you know, I went there with good intentions, but you know, I got a disease that I didn't know I had at that time. You know, and you know, I went there in September. By Christmas, I'm back at home, living at home. You know, university's gone out the window, and I'm miserable, and I'm just using. You know, yeah, I can't manage my own life. You know, and I just worked through these steps with my sponsor. You know, and I did what was suggested of me. You know, and one of those things was to get on my knees and pray for a clean day every morning, and you know, thank my higher power for a clean day at the end of the day. You know, and I still do that today, because you know, it's I need a power in my life. You know, my power was not sufficient to stay stopped. You know, I'd always pick up again. You know, I know that, and I need this power in my life. You know, to stay free from active addiction. You know, that's the number one thing. You know, I've come to rely on this power on a daily basis, and you know, God's done for me what I couldn't do for myself. You know, I'm certain of that. You know, that starts from freedom from active addiction, and you know, that's what I was promised when I came here, freedom from active addiction, and you know, I've got that, and I've got a lot more. You know, I've got a new way of life. You know, through the process of working through these steps with a sponsor. You know, I've found recovery in Narcotics Anonymous. You know, I've got a new way of life. You know, I rely on this power in my life to direct my thinking. You know, and I rely on my sponsor. You know, because he catches me when I don't catch myself. You know, when I tell him about this great new idea I've got, and he directs me to a bit in the basic text, and I just realised, thank God. You know, thank God I got this guidance in my life, because you know, my thinking's got better, but it's still off the wall, man. You know, I can't rely on my own thinking. And you know, since coming into this fellowship, my life's just turned around very, very rapidly. You know, this stuff does not take long to work. You know, that's my experience completely, and it just keeps getting better and better. You know, and I'm just a normal guy. You know, I go to work, I do a day's work for a day's money. You know, I've got my family back in my life. You know, I pay my taxes, I just do normal stuff, and I fucking enjoy it. And that is just a miracle for me. You know, people talk about this life beyond your wildest dreams, you know, and you know, that's what I've got. A life of my wildest dreams involves money and cars and all that stuff, you know. But just to be happy, You know, being where I am, doing what I'm doing, that's beyond my wildest dreams. You know, that was, you know, I didn't expect to get that when I came here. You know, I just wanted to stop using drugs. I wanted to stop feeling the way that I was feeling, you know, and I've got that, and I've got an amazing life today. You know, and I've got that bit of honesty through doing this work, you know, that I can see what I've got in life. You know, I'm not always focused on what I haven't got and what I want. You know, I do slip into that sometimes, but you know, there's things I do. I write a gratitude list, you know, every night, and I look at that every morning, and you know, I've got a fantastic life. That's the reality of it today. You know, I've got some great people in my life, you know, and I experience a sense of ease and comfort on a daily basis, you know, and really, that's alien to me. You know, I haven't been around very long, and that's a new thing for me. It really is, you know, and you know, I just say to anyone who's new, you know, that there is a way out from this stuff. You know, it's available in Narcotics Anonymous, you know, and it's available to anyone who's willing to do the work. You know, it's not a lottery. You know, I firmly believe that. You know, it's 100% guaranteed if you're willing to do the work and take guidance from a sponsor. You know, and yeah, I love coming to Narcotics Anonymous. You know, I love doing service here and trying to give back what I was given. You know, and that's one of the things that my sponsors made clear to me. That's one of the things that I have to do to, you know, to keep this freedom from active addiction that I've got. You know, and I had to come here and learn this because, you know, my nature's selfish and self-centered. That's my problem, you know, and putting others first. That wouldn't have been something that I come up with myself. You know, I had to learn this, and you know, provided I do what I do on a daily basis. You know, I work a daily program. I take guidance from my sponsor, and I rely on a higher power in my life. You know, and I try and live by the will of that higher power and not my own will. And provided I do that stuff, you know, I have a fantastic life, and I'll leave it there. Thanks for letting me share.